The haunting of the old mansion. The old mansion on the outskirts of town had always been rumored to be haunted. Its foreboding presence, overgrown yard, and boarded-up windows had kept many people away over the years. But that didn't stop a group of adventurous teenagers from daring each other to spend a night inside. Mary, Sarah, Josh, and Mike had been friends since childhood. They had grown up hearing stories about the mansion and the ghosts that supposedly haunted it. As they stood outside the imposing structure, they couldn't help feeling a mix of excitement and fear. "Do you really think we should go in?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling slightly. "We didn't come all this way just to chicken out now," Josh replied, trying to sound brave. Mike grinned. "Besides, it'll make for a great story to tell our grandkids someday." Mary nodded in agreement. "Okay, let's do this." With that, they pushed open the rusty gate and made their way up the overgrown path to the mansion. The air was heavy with the scent of decay, and cobwebs hung from every corner. The front door creaked as they pushed it open, revealing a dark, dusty interior. As they entered the mansion, a chill ran down their spines. The house was even more sinister up close, with peeling wallpaper, creaking floorboards, and an eerie silence that seemed to hang in the air. The only sound was their own footsteps, echoing through the deserted halls. They decided to set up camp in one of the bedrooms on the second floor, hoping to survive the night. As they lit a few candles, strange noises began to echo through the halls. The floorboards creaked and groaned, and doors slammed shut on their own. At first, they tried to ignore it, chalking it up to their imagination playing tricks on them. But as the noises grew louder and more frequent, fear began to gnaw at them. They huddled together in the bedroom, trying to make sense of what was happening. Then, they saw them, ghostly figures floating through the walls. At first, they were just flickers of movement out of the corner of their eyes, but as the ghosts came closer, they became more distinct. Mary and her friends tried to run, but the mansion seemed to twist and turn, leading them right back to where they started. The ghosts seemed to be toying with them, haunting their every move. Some were transparent and wispy, barely visible in the flickering candlelight. Others were more solid, with dark eyes that seemed to bore into their souls. As the night wore on, Mary and her friends grew increasingly desperate. They tried everything they could think of to ward off the ghosts: salt, sage, holy water, but nothing worked. They huddled together in fear, hoping for a miracle. Suddenly, the ghosts vanished, and the mansion fell silent. Mary and her friends were relieved, thinking they had survived the night. But as they made their way to the exit, they realized they were not alone. The ghosts had possessed them, and they were now doomed to haunt the mansion forever. At first, they didn't even realize what had happened. They just felt a strange sensation, like something was weighing them down. But as they looked down at their hands, they saw them, ghostly appendages that shimmered in the dim light. Mary and her friends tried to scream, but no sound came out. They were trapped, locked in the mansion with no hope of escape. The ghosts had taken over their bodies and minds, and they were powerless to resist. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. Mary and her friends had become ghosts themselves, condemned to roam the halls of the mansion forever. They watched helplessly as new groups of teenagers came and went, daring each other to spend a night in the haunted house. But no one ever made it out alive. The ghosts were always waiting, ready to claim their next victim. Mary and her friends had tried to warn them, to tell them to stay away, but their ghostly whispers fell on deaf ears. As the years passed, the mansion fell into even greater disrepair. Its once grand halls were now filled with dust and cobwebs, and the only sound was the howling of the wind through broken windows. Mary and her friends had long since lost track of time. They were ghosts now, eternal and ageless. They had no idea how long they had been trapped in the mansion, but it felt like an eternity. Sometimes they would hear strange noises, the sound of footsteps or whispers, and they would hope that someone had come to rescue them. But it was always just another group of teenagers, eager to prove their bravery. Mary and her friends had resigned themselves to their fate. They would never escape the mansion, never be free of the ghosts that had possessed them. They were just another part of the haunted house, a warning to those who dared to enter. And so they continued to haunt the mansion, their ghostly forms flickering in and out of existence. They were a constant reminder of the horrors that lay within, a warning to all who would dare to enter. The mansion on the outskirts of town had become a legend, a place of terror and despair. And Mary and her friends were a part of that legend, a tragic footnote in the history of the haunted house. But they still hoped, deep down, that one day someone would come to free them from their eternal prison. Until then, they would continue to haunt the mansion, waiting for a chance at redemption. And then, one day, something changed. A new group of teenagers entered the mansion, as fearless and foolhardy as all the others before them. But one of them was different. His name was Jack, and he was a paranormal investigator. Jack had heard the rumors about the haunted mansion and was determined to uncover the truth behind the legends. He had spent years studying the paranormal, and he believed that he could break the curse that had trapped Mary and her friends. As the teenagers explored the mansion, Jack sensed a presence, a ghostly energy that he had never encountered before. He followed the sensation to the grand ballroom, where he found Mary and her friends, their ghostly forms flickering in and out of existence. Jack spoke to them, calling out to the spirits that had possessed their bodies. He offered them a way out, a chance to break free from the curse that had trapped them for so long. At first, the ghosts were skeptical. They had seen countless groups of teenagers come and go, and none of them had ever been able to break the curse. But something in Jack's words resonated with them, and they began to listen. Jack explained that the curse was not caused by the ghosts themselves, but by a powerful negative energy that had been trapped in the mansion for centuries. He believed that he could harness that energy and use it to break the curse. And so, with Mary and her friends' help, Jack began a ritual to break the curse. The energy was powerful, and the ghosts' bodies shook with the force of it. But they held on, determined to finally break free. As the ritual came to an end, there was a blinding flash of light, and the curse was broken. Mary and her friends felt their bodies return to them, their ghostly forms dissipating. They were free, after all these years. Jack and the teenagers helped Mary and her friends out of the mansion, and they walked into the sunlight for the first time in what felt like an eternity. The ghosts looked at each other, amazed to see their own bodies again. They thanked Jack and the teenagers for freeing them from their curse, and promised to use their newfound freedom to help others who had been trapped in the same way. And so Mary and her friends left the haunted mansion behind, their spirits lifted and their souls finally at peace. They knew that they would always be haunted by the memories of their time as ghosts, but now they were free to live their lives without fear of the curse that had once held them captive. As they walked away from the mansion, Mary turned to Jack and thanked him for his help. She explained that they had been trapped in the mansion for so long that they had lost all hope of ever being free. Jack smiled and said that he was just glad he could help. He knew that he had a special gift for communicating with the dead, and he felt a sense of purpose in helping those who had been trapped in this world. As they walked, Mary noticed that the mansion was changing. The dark clouds that had hung over it for so long were dissipating, and the sun was shining down on it for the first time in years. Mary looked at Jack and smiled. She knew that he had truly broken the curse and had freed them from the grip of the mansion. And as she walked away, she knew that she would never forget the kindness and bravery of the young paranormal investigator who had saved her and her friends from a fate worse than death. The haunted mansion stood empty and abandoned once again, but the ghosts were gone, and the curse had been broken. And although it was still a dark and foreboding place, it was no longer haunted by the ghosts of those who had been trapped there for so long. Years passed, and the mansion fell into disrepair once again. But it was no longer a place of fear and dread. People passed by it without a second glance, unaware of the dark history that had once plagued the mansion. But Mary and her friends never forgot their time in the haunted mansion, and the kindness of the young paranormal investigator who had saved them. And they knew that they would always be grateful to him for breaking the curse and freeing them from the grip of the mansion. Years later, Jack returned to the haunted mansion. It was still standing, but it had fallen into complete disrepair. The once grand ballroom was now nothing more than a pile of rubble, and the walls were covered in ivy and vines. Jack walked through the ruins, remembering the day when he had broken the curse and freed Mary and her friends. He felt a sense of sadness as he thought about the ghosts who had been trapped in the mansion for so long. As he walked, he heard a faint whispering in the air. It was the voices of the ghosts, still trapped in the mansion even though the curse had been broken. Jack knew that he had to do something to help them. He called upon his knowledge of the paranormal and began to search for a way to release the spirits once and for all. After months of research and experimentation, Jack discovered a way to release the ghosts from the mansion. He gathered a group of fellow paranormal investigators and returned to the mansion. Together, they performed a ritual to release the spirits from the mansion. The energy was intense, and the ghosts' bodies shook with the force of it. But they held on, determined to finally break free. As the ritual came to an end, there was a blinding flash of light, and the ghosts were gone. The mansion was empty once again, but this time it was truly abandoned. Jack walked out of the mansion, feeling a sense of peace knowing that the ghosts had finally been released. He knew that he had done something good, and that he had helped those who had been trapped for far too long. And as he walked away, he knew that he would never forget the haunted mansion, and the ghosts that had once haunted it. But he also knew that he had helped to give them the peace and freedom that they deserved. Months later, Jack received a call from Mary. She thanked him for his help in freeing the ghosts from the haunted mansion. She explained that she had returned to the mansion herself and found that it was no longer haunted. Mary had purchased the mansion and had it restored to its former glory. She explained that she had been inspired by Jack's bravery and selflessness, and wanted to create a place where people could gather and share their experiences with the paranormal. Jack was surprised and touched by Mary's words. He knew that he had made a difference in her life and the lives of her friends. He agreed to visit the mansion, and when he arrived, he was amazed at the transformation. The once dark and foreboding mansion was now filled with light and warmth. People from all over the world came to visit and share their own paranormal experiences. Jack became a regular visitor to the mansion, sharing his knowledge and expertise with those who sought answers to the mysteries of the paranormal. Years passed, and Jack grew older. But he never forgot the haunted mansion, and the ghosts that had once haunted it. He knew that he had made a difference in the lives of those who had been trapped there, and he was proud of what he had accomplished. And although the haunted mansion was now a place of light and warmth, Jack knew that it would always hold a special place in his heart, and in the hearts of those who had been there when the ghosts were still trapped.